Last November, Georgia's contested election threw the country into political crisis. The ruling party, with close ties to Russia, claimed victory, sparking outrage. A year on, pro-EU protesters are keeping up the pressure, despite the government's attempts to stifle the opposition. DW's Yuri Rashedo takes a closer look at their fight and what's at stake.
Every evening at 6 o'clock, Tiona Pankvelashvili and her fellow protesters stand in front of the local administration building in Gori. Their message is clear. They accuse the government of turning its back on Europe and leaning toward Russia.
It's very important to come here for every day to say to our government that you are illegal, to save our country, to save our future and independence.
The protests began in November 2024 after parliamentary elections that many here call stolen. Tens of thousands refused to accept the victory of the ruling Georgian Dream Party. The European Union agreed, rejecting the results and calling for sanctions against top officials. In response, the government suspended talks on EU accession, a move that angered many Georgians. One of them is Andro Barnov. Once a member of the administration of the imprisoned former president Mikhail Saakashvili, Barnov now lives quietly on his vineyard near Tbilisi. He says Georgia is losing its way.
We feel that we're not even free to make decisions because there is a dictate from the side of Russia, and the government is just following those directions that are dictated from the Kremlin.
Barnov points to policies that resemble Russia's. Opposition parties are banned, politicians persecuted, so-called LGBTQ propaganda is outlawed, and many NGOs are labeled foreign agents. Officially, the government still claims to seek EU membership, something written into the constitution. But critics say its actions tell a different story. Parliament now wants to ban 3 major opposition parties. For pro-government analyst Gia Abashidze, the opposition's fight is doomed.
The problem of this opposition that they are activists is it's not only anti-Georgian dream. It's anti-Georgian values, anti-tradition, anti-church. So once you attack core Georgian values, you will always lose.
Andro Barnov disagrees. For him, Europe stands for freedom and democracy.
I think we are more than ready to be the EU member. You know, we feel like European country. We feel like European society, you know. Of course, if we talk about the government, that's a totally different story now. And this is very pro-Russian government.
Andro Barnov has stepped back from active protest. But Tiona Pankvelashvili refuses to give up.
Our mission is to be in a family where our place is, and this is Europe.
A mission that comes with risks. Protesters say arrests are becoming more frequent. But for Tiona and others, the fight for Georgia's future and its place in Europe is worth it.
And let's bring in DW's Yuri Rashedo, who filed that report and who is still in Georgia. So, Yuri, a year ago, we saw the crowds outside of the Parliament building. How strong is the pro-European movement in Georgia today?
Well, Sarah, most people still dream of joining the European Union. Around 80% say yes to EU membership. But when it comes to values, things get a little complicated. Sure, freedom of speech, democracy and press freedom, officially everyone is on board. But other European ideas like tolerance and protecting minorities, especially sexual minorities, are a different story. Many here reject those outright, and some even call it LGBTQ propaganda. There is a law that prohibits so-called LGBTQ propaganda. In fact, Georgia is still a pretty conservative place. There is a clear split, I would say. Cities lean liberal, villages stick to tradition. Also, many here question the European migration policy. So, for now, the big question remains, can Georgia find common ground with Europe?
And in the meantime, people are still taking to the streets. They are challenging the Georgian Dream Party, which is widely seen as being pro-Russian. Yuri, what are they risking by doing that?
Well, look, protesting in Georgia isn't what it used to be last year. Authorities call these gatherings now illegal and they are cracking down. Arrests have happened and there are plenty of examples. The ruling party says protesters are just troublemakers paid by someone else. But what I've seen here in Tbilisi over the last few days was every evening people still show up in front of parliament. Men, women, young, old, peaceful, sometimes just a few dozen, sometimes a few hundred. Still, it's nothing like the massive crowds we saw a year ago. Many in the middle generation, people who once believed change was possible, are now bitterly disappointed.
The opposition, it is claiming that Georgia is becoming more and more like Russia politically. Is that true?
Well, I would say Georgia seems to be drifting away from Europe. But is it moving closer to Russia? That's the big question. It's controversial and it's sparking heated debate here. Some say the country looks like a Kremlin ally these days. Why? Well, take a look. New laws that look a lot like Russia's and a crackdown on the opposition. In fact, the three biggest opposition parties are practically banned. Parliament pushed it through and now the issue is being decided in the Supreme Court. The government, though, insists there is no cozy relationship with Moscow. Their argument? The region is complicated, the world is complicated, especially with Russia's war in Ukraine raging on. Officials say there is just trying to keep the country stable for playing on several fronts. Will that strategy work? Well, hard to say. For now, Georgia stands at a crossroads.
Yuri, do we know how much political support the opposition is receiving from parties or individual politicians in the EU?
Well, Sarah, at the moment the status quo is that EU membership negotiations are suspended. When it comes to the support from outside, I would say that's tricky. Some foreign NGOs have been slapped with the so-called foreign agent label, and Western politicians are accused of meddling in domestic affairs. One example that made headlines, I would say, Germany's ambassador faced a wave of hate speech and eventually packed up and left the country. I would say for now relations are disastrous.
Yuri Rashedo, thank you very much.